Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to another exciting installment of Vampire the Requiem. A Requiem for London. The Luftwaffe blitzed yesterday. I'm going to stop that now. For some reason, whenever I introduce this game, I slip into my 1940s I'm a commentator on the newsreel voice, and it's fine. This evening's scene is going to take place in the St. Mary's Asylum, located within the bounds of Kingston upon Thames. It is a large abandoned building that has been abandoned and left derelict for almost 30 years now. Perhaps it has gone to the National Trust, but they have done absolutely nothing with it. Individuals kindred in the city. There is word of a gathering, a meet and greet, as it were, that is going to be hosted by one of the city's newer kindred. He has said it will be a most enlightening seminar. He phrased it in that exact way. As you approach the building, there are no lights, and it is all covered up with plywood, and the windows have been bricked up and sealed. However, the main door lies open, and you'll see a rather smartly dressed little man standing outside of it, nodding and bopping his head up and down. He will welcome you as you arrive and show you inside. So we will do our introductions. We shall have Lenny and Ben, the local Carthians. Considering this area abuts Carthian domain, it could be interesting to see who your neighbors are.
Precisely.
Yep.
And what better way to meet the neighbors than a meet and greet?
Yeah.
Lenny appears to be in their late 20s, long brown hair, sort of pleasant features, but nothing overly remarkable. She walks with a bit of a wince in her step whenever she moves her back wrong, as if there is some kind of injury there. But she is dressed fairly nice for the evening, more akin to cocktail attire than anything particularly formal, but definitely something that flatters their figure in a aesthetically pleasing way. And they are accompanied by their friend Ben.
Yeah, and Ben is a relatively shaggy looking man, long, sort of wavy black hair. Kind of seems to have like a 5 o'clock shadow perpetually. He is not dressed. I mean, like he looks like your generic like college student, university student. So he's dressed like it's all like a nicer button-up shirt and some nice jeans and like nicer boots, but nothing like particularly remarkable or expensive. And he's just kind of he's here with Lenny, very very clearly first and foremost, and it's probably generally large social gatherings don't seem to be his preferred pastime.
Next, if my three brothers and sisters in the arms of the dragon would like to introduce themselves, they can do so in whatever order they like.
Well, I guess I'm the only one unpaused or unmuted, so I guess that makes me first. So Nikolai is as small as a one-time great Lancium Sanctum Bishop put gangly man, who looks a little too, like, he's a little too small for the clothes he wears, a little too skinny, but otherwise fairly unremarkable. One of those types of faces in one of those types of builds that you'll see on the street and your eyes will just pass over. There's nothing really handsome about him. There's nothing really outstanding about him. He walks up in a sweater vest of all things, with a button-up shirt underneath, and it's just like there's a sort of awkwardness to him, like he doesn't really know why he's here. and is already trying to fade into the background. Other Garthy, other Ordo, it's your turn.
Julian will arrive, looking around. To be honest, he's looking a bit confused. He's in a heavier rain jacket as he gets to the door and sees the doorman and kind of gestures at him to gain permission to get in. And once he does, he kind of looks around to see any familiar faces. He's a larger gentleman, about about above 6 feet tall, definitely muscled and of a sense of weight. So, and for those I've seen him previously, much more alert, much more aware. Though he seems to be leaning to one side, like maybe he suffered some type of injury.
Marcus Irons might not be the tallest fellow, quite frankly. If anything, he looks slightly haggard, but he's actually put in a little bit of the extra work, the good old-fashioned black shirt, suit trousers, wearing some properly polished boots underneath that. Has even apparently shaved a bit of his side beard off and tried to make himself a little bit more presentable. All in black, straight back, he'll be entering in, not as if he owned the place, but with a little bit of self-confidence. He seems surprisingly comfortable in the territory and nods to the other kindred.
As you enter into the hospital, into the large atrium to be exact, you will find yourself standing in a room you weren't expecting to find. It is a room that is crowded with bookshelves that have been set up.
Ooh, books!
Lenny
go.
starts perusing titles.
Same with Nikolai.
Most of them are either very old or very sought after tomes on matters of things like the occult or medicine.
Marcus will have a look and start realizing that some of these books are pretty old or very hard to come by.
You will also see laid out on little plinths throughout the library very ancient-looking papyri that are written in hieroglyphics.
Marcus will definitely be inspecting those a little more intently.
Ben will also inspect the papyri as well.
Oh, your kindred senses will also immediately become attuned to the smell of vitae that is more than likely permeating this building. You see daubed on the floor in interesting places a large amount of symbols and symbology.
Whose vitae is it?
You have no idea.
I have Bloodhound. And I can roll for it.
Yeah.
All right, 1 second. This is 9 against, but for some reason 9 against hasn't been working for me. Let me just double check my something real quick. All right. That'll be one more roll for that, and with distinguished palate, that will be an exceptional success.
At 2 or 3 different people.
Glands.
Ah, friends, welcome. Welcome. You see Sir Alexander stand up from where he is seated. He's seated near the center of the books in what looks to be a small octangular reading area where there are a number of chairs. Please, come in, won't you? Come in out of the cold. Where are my manners for those of you who haven't met me? Sir Alexander Hartwell, at your service.
Delighted to meet you. My name is Lenora, but please call me Lenny.
He will extend his hand.
Lenny will shake his hand.
He doesn't shake. He clicks his heels and he will kiss her hand.
Aw, okay, that works.
A pleasure to meet you, Madam Lenny. A pleasure. And who's this fine, strapping gentleman?
I'm Ben. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Ben. Won't you please sit down? Make yourselves at home.
Lenny does just that. Finds a chair, takes a seat, and continues looking around with interest.
Ah, and here are my brothers. Welcome to my current humble abode.
Good evening, Sir Hartwell. I like the choice in decor.
Yes, unfortunately, my books, well, I must simply have them wherever I go. Unfortunately, the Order was good enough to give me Remington, or whatever the hell his name is, and he's been setting it up for me during the day. A pleasure to see you again, Mr. Irons. He'll shake your hand very warmly, puts his hand on your shoulder, like, very good to see you again.
Marcus will probably be mimicking the gesture. The pleasure is all mine.
And Mr. Goodman, so good to see you again.
Then Hartwell. And he kind of looks around this place with very direct intent and looks back to Hartwell and goes, I'm surprised you would want to live in a place like this.
Why?
The fact that we're having this social gathering at all, that seemed you're more used to more comfortable surroundings.
Oh, no. My apologies, Master Nikolai. I'll greet you before I go into the nitty-gritty. A pleasure to see you again.
Nikolai will be over looking at one of the book, or looking at the titles of the books. As he starts pulling out one, he'll turn in the direction and nod, agreeing to Alexander, and he'll go, thank you for hosting this, Mr. Hartwell.
Oh, think nothing of it, my friend. Think nothing of it. When you're ready, please peruse my collection. If you ever want to borrow a book, you only have to ask. But when you're done, please sit down. To answer your question, Mr. Goodman, it was not necessarily that I chose this building out of sheer aesthetics, though there is something ghoulishly macabre about an individual such as myself occupying a former mental institution, as I'm sure you'll agree. No, I did it because it is the perfect place for me to interconnect various different points of psychokinetic energy in order to make what I require.
He nods, understanding that statement. I see. And he says, let's see, I'm actually, there's a particular code phrase he's trying to use.
Oh, we have a bunch of those in the Ordo book.
Yeah, I have it. I have it open.
I need to read that book.
Some of the terminology is pretty interesting, but like realistically, it not that. A lot of it wasn't ported over to Chronicles and Second Ed, but some of it's just cool for flavor.
I'm more for flavor points than anything else, but ignoring mechanical stuff and just like history and stuff like that.
He will say, are you wishing to be sublime this particular night?
He will seem to contemplate that before he will simply say, He will try to say. Sorry, once again, it's about reading the right code word. We'll try to say. Well, I hardly feel the need to be subtle.
He nods his head to that.
Please sit down. Now then. Delightful. May I offer drinks or some sustenance, perhaps? I wasn't sure if any of you partook.
Not typically speaking, unless it's required for some sort of blending in reason.
You don't mind if I do, in that case?
Not at all.
Wonderful. He will spend a blood point. He will pour a measure of wine from a decanter into a glass, and he will sip it. Wonderful. May I offer anybody else a snifter? It's very fine.
I won't mind. Marcus lifts his hand.
Wonderful, Mr. Irons. I'll just get you a glass. One moment. I don't... silly me, I haven't unpacked them. I'll be back in a few minutes, if you'll excuse me.
Of course.
He stands up and makes his way out. If any of you want to shit talk him while he's gone, now's a good time.
Oh, it's good to see you three again. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm actually doing better.
I can't complain. Same and as stable as ever. By the way, nice to see you, Lenny.
Good to see you too.
And Ben, was it? And he's lazily pointing at Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Ben Smith. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, Marcus. Marcus Irons. Nice to meet you. And he offers a hand.
He'll shake it with his gangly ass arm.
That'll
Lenny's an
do
old friend of
fine.
mine.
I see.
Don't worry. No matter what, you're not as gangly as Nikolai.
I disagree.
We could have like a gangly off or something. Well,
Yes. Look, I feel threatened. Someone's trying to steal my title of the most gangly.
It'd be great for the alliteration if you were a gangly gangrel.
rest in peace.
But Alexander will return a few minutes later with another glass, and he will pour a measure of the wine from Mr. Irons before setting it down. Now then,
thank you.
Delightful. Wonderful. But yes, I must admit, I've been quite comfortable here in the time that I've been occupying the space. As I said, it has such a great psychokinetic ring to it. But then again, places that have had a great deal of death, pain, and suffering often do.
Do you find that such places help with whatever it is you're trying to create?
Well, you see, it's rather an interesting phenomenon. Are you aware of pools of esoteric energy? Energy that tends to pool in a given place, more than likely at convergence of ley lines.
Please assume that I know nothing.
Ah, wonderful. I shall have to... One moment, I'll get my book.
Now you've
Marcus
done.
is smiling.
He returns with a very large, kind of almost grimoire-style book that you'd swear to God he needs his vigor just to keep holding up. But he will put it down on the table. He clicks it open. And he'll say, "So, Miss Lenny, right, allow me to explain. So, in essence, energy flows throughout the spectrum, if you understand me. It flows in channels and patterns. This is incredibly powerful esoteric energy that allows us to do rather incredible feats. Energy flows and pools in certain locations where these lines of energy, or ley lines, perhaps, I believe they're called colloquially now, intersect. Are you following with me?
Yes, I do believe I am.
Yes, well. Areas of incredible emotional significance and harmonic convergences tend to breed more of a thinner veil between our world and other worlds, because human emotion is incredibly psycho-reactive. So the more negative emotion a place has, the easier it is for the veil to become thinned or veiled. That is the reason why we have things like apparitions, spirits, ghosts, etc., because the veil has become incredibly thin. You following with me?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I am doing here is I am artificially creating a pool of that energy by altering the ley lines.
To create a place where the veil is thinner.
Correct.
Fascinating.
I tend to be that, if nothing else. For the Ordo, he's basically talking about he's artificially creating a dragon's nest.
Yeah. We are just sort of nodding along, smile and wave sort of thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. As I said, this place had a very special resonance when I found it. But as said, I grieve for the poor souls who were kept here, before modern practices. I'm led to understand that mental illness was treated in the most barbaric of fashions.
They have to chase the tail somehow. But it's true.
Chase the tail?
It's a particular phrase that we use in the Ordo. Basically, it's just a shorthand for experimentation.
Quite so. Chasing the dragon's tail, as it were. But my particular organization within our grouping specializes in research, and my specialty is spirits and ephemera.
And that makes total sense as to why you would like the veil to be thin, to better study the metaphysics that you focus on.
Quite so. I'm curious. As a matter of fact, I'm going to roll some dice at a problem, because I can. Hi, Lenny. Hi. I can do this for free for once, so I might as well do it.
Yep.
Oh, I know what you're doing. It's the Auspex thing.
It is Auspex 2.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Lenny, what caused you injury?
Claws from a gangrel.
Oof.
Yeah.
Were you Why did you get into that fight?
To rescue someone.
Lovely. He leans back in his chair as he says, yes, well, it is, you understand, but yes, this place has wonderful resonance, such a wonderful resonance. And so I hope to be able to continue my work here. I'm not big on, certain members of our organization are very much hide and cloak and dagger and whatever else have you, but considering it is my business to fight and kill Strix, I tend not to like to be very cloak and dagger. And yes, he just drops the word in casual conversation.
Would there be a role for me to know what that is specifically?
Technically, you'd be a cult roll, but
It's into cult. Bishop generally levels very heavy dice penalties. To just know what they are, I'd say it's just a straight roll, but you get no real information but to know a thing, if that makes sense.
No, that's fine. This is mostly just for Matthew doesn't know this, so. Might as well have my ignorance in or out of character be determined by fate.
See, here's the problem: is Rowan does know this, but Lenny doesn't.
Well, I think it's fair to say that they are well known as being the vampiric boogeymen that everyone is terrified of, but actually knowing about them is entirely different.
That's valid.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows the owls will get you,
I mean,
kid.
how he was treating it early was even knowing the name of the Strix was a dice roll.
Oh, okay, cool. In that case, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
we'll roll some dice at it.
I rolled
let's
a
go with,
success.
once again, Bishop can feel free to come back in and retcon this if he likes. They are vampiric boogeymen. They are the things that haunt the shadows. They are the things that all kindred are terrified of. Like even saying their name out loud is taboo. It's like vampire Voldemort.
I gotcha.
I'm sorry, you want what
And-
exactly?
To her, you saying that Nikolai will flinch every time you say the word.
I hunt the Strix, my dear.
I am not familiar with that term.
There's a mild growl out of Goodman's chest. And he just kind of looks over to Hartwell and is like, "This is on you."
He smiles. My bloodline, my dear Mr. Goodman, have been killing the Strix since Thebes. We're rather good at it.
I don't need to push it. I'm just not in the mood to bring any extra trouble onto my life right now.
That's entirely fair. To answer your question, my dear Miss Lenny, they are known as the Owls, or the Spectres. They are viciously unpleasant spirits that have many different nascent powers and tend to like to feed on us as their prey. They tend to possess us, puppet us. They are generally unpleasant and very difficult to deal with.
That sounds generally unpleasant.
If you ever see anyone with bright yellow eyes, run and tell me. That is what I'll say. You seem like a rather lovely young lady, and I would hate for anything to happen to you. And this is not me dissuading you, or this is not me saying you are not capable of handling yourself. It's more so, unless you have a very specific toolkit, they are all but undefeatable.
And I assume I do not possess such toolkits, since I don't even know what they are.
Quite so. As a matter of fact, to put my dear Mr. Goodman's mind at ease, because he is my guest, you will see Alexander is that douchebag who wears sunglasses at night. He will spend a point of blood. He will remove his sunglasses. You will see the fact his eyes in his head have become like almost a Vanta black. As he looks at each of you, I take it none of you are currently possessed by a Strix.
I would assume so.
I
But
mean,
I have
I'm
never
not.
said
I
that.
can't speak for anyone else.
Though
Nope.
Nope.
Goodman will respond. Not to deny your expertise, but there have been few cases, which I'm sure you're aware of, unfortunate effects from becoming one of our kind, that some are born with unusual eyes.
Oh, quite so, quite so. But it is still the only obvious physical indicator. So it is I will inform the young whom are not aware, so they may prepare themselves.
He nods to that. That's it.
Unfortunately, there is a large grouping of them currently active within this city. That much I can confirm.
And what is it that they do, apart from prey on us, apparently?
The general statement I would say is they're just evil. They're trying to do things beyond their capability. And
Even the most evil of beings rarely considers themselves such. Do they have some form of goal or society by which they operate?
What you must understand is the Strix are not human in any shape or form. Where we are still bound to the shadows of our mortal coil. The Strix are not a creature that you can simply stuff into the box of mortal thinking.
If anything, there was an interesting theory that I myself penned, which is they are more akin to the beast itself, unfettered by any semblance of humanity, but with still the capability of conscious thought.
And the old stories say they are, in a weird way, either hunger and a whole lot of pain, and they're jealous of our conditions because they do not have truly a physical shell, and for some reason they wish to have that.
And to answer your question, Miss Lenny, they are deal makers and arbiters. I have seen many domains brought low by the kindred who would accept the offerings of the Strix because they did not know better, because they offered something that the kindred desired. But it's always a Faustian deal, you see.
Ah.
So, if that's even already obvious, there's no good that comes from dealing with the Strix. So never assume anybody ever says, "Oh, they could be reasoned with. Oh, they're not all that bad."
Oh, no, they can be reasoned with, Mr. Goodman. They are sentient and cognizant. They will always simply try to get the most out of their deal. And the fact of the matter is that they will trick, they will manipulate, they will skive, they will maneuver. Do not think of them as unthinking. They do possess reason.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean in the statement that they're benign.
Ah,
No Strix is benign.
quite so.
But people get desperate, which they love that.
We are certainly in a time that is ripe for the plucking.
There is a healthy amount of unrest already.
And also the general term is they absolutely hate us, despite their demeanor.
Well, I didn't think that I'd be giving a masterclass in the Strix and their nature, but here we are, it seems. As a matter of fact, Mr. Goodman, I'm led to understand that you were once affiliated with the Axe.
I am. Yes. I'm on temporary leave right now, but yes.
That is an interesting way of phrasing it. I'm preparing a dossier for them on the best manner in which they can combat this threat. I was requested to do so. Perhaps I shall give the dossier to you and you can give it to whom you see fit. It might be a good way for you to curry some kind of favor.
Very well.
Good. Mm. Good wine.
He looks over to Lenny and Ben, and looks over to Hartwell. Though I'm curious, why embarked the Carthians here?
They're my neighbors.
But they're also at war, and we don't necessarily need to give anybody wrong ideas quite yet.
Well, I'm not at war.
True.
No one's asked me to fight.
And I've not been asked to fight any of the Order Dracul.
Huh?
Blinks at the I'm not at war statement, goes, but aren't you?
No.
Aren't all your bloodline at war?
Oh, insofar as I am at war with the Strix, yes. But insofar as I am at war with members of this city's kindred population, I have not been told that I have to combat them. They are my friends. I'm having a pleasant evening in.
I should hope that you do not have to get involved in the actual war.
In all honesty, Master Nikolai, I don't mean to sound crass or blunt. My position and the position of my bloodline in the city is too valuable for me to get involved in any other such conflict, and I think all sides in the city respect that.
Nikolai will nod and say, that's what I was getting at.
Yes.
However, I have seen the arrogance of some of these individuals within this theater. And I would not put your position as an insurance that they will not try to get you you or your sire involved?
My sire is a member of the Circle of the Crone. He is not necessarily dogmatic, but he is as he is. We, however, will always follow our hunt because it is a higher calling. But if asked by my covenant, I will shed blood, I suppose. I'd rather not. But you understand how it is. But I'm curious, Miss Lenny and Master Ben, why is it that this prince, this Master Graves, is so evil that you feel he must be overthrown, his whole damn covenant with him? What has he done to you personally?
What he's done to me personally is kidnap a fellow member of the movement and attempt to mentally enslave her.
Oh my.
Well, one of his people did that. That would be what I was dealing with earlier. My understanding beyond that is that they have attempted to bring the fight to us, and I am more than willing to respond when attacked. I'm not actively seeking them out.
Quite so, quite so. I'm blown away. Who was this individual whom they kidnapped?
Her name is Sadie. I am fairly new to the city. I am still learning all of the various members of the movement locally, but I don't need to know her personally to be willing to defend a member of the movement.
No, quite so, quite so. I understand that perspective, dear Lord. Yes, quite so, quite so. Why was it she was being held?
That is an excellent question to which I have no particular answers.
Oh yes, is there a reason why I've been asked to look into... Oh, blast, what's it called? Strange drug.
Violet.
That's the one.
If there is, that is not something that I have information on at this time.
If I remember correctly, it can be used as a way to control people's ability to feed in one way or another.
Much more than that. My research has shown that it makes people docile. It's like a variation of ecstasy, though much more addictive and can even affect kindred. And even worse, or maybe not worse, I guess it is worse, how they're making it involves vitae. So they create a blood sympathy link. So people that understand that have their blood mixed with it as the main ingredient, without even knowing, they could more or less invade your body more easily.
Huh.
Yeah, there we go.
So to
Well,
put
that
it very
sounds
simply, pardon me. But yes, to put it very simply, one could say that the wells from where we draw our energy from, our life force, they attempted to poison it. And thus, I guess you could make an argument that that was a move against basically all the kindred in the city who were not part of an august club. Let's put it that way.
Ah, I understand. Interesting, interesting. So you're saying the Invictus were responsible for the sale and distribution of this narcotic?
They were involved with the sale and distribution. And then he looks over kind of carefully to the Carthians, but continues. And a splinter group of the Order was hired to develop the drug.
Ah. If the Carthians would like, I'll make them something better.
The idea is we don't make it better, because I already invented a treatment for the humans that have taken it, and hopefully don't overdose or just die from it.
Oh. That doesn't sound very profitable.
Well, actually, it is. Well, I won't be able to benefit from it, but hopefully once it gets properly put into the system, Good Ministries will have a boon on its shoulder.
Ah, wonderful. I'm curious then why I've been asked to look into it. That's neither here nor there.
because there might be more that I missed, but I studied that thing for months. So there is one benefit that I've been trying to, let's just say, reverse engineer. My ingesting it, especially as a kindred, invokes the blush onto our body. So that could be a decent social boon. Without, if someone could make it in a way that isn't, a psychoactive drug.
Could be done.
Take time though.
We're immortal. Time is something we have in oodles.
I try not to lie to myself. We do have potentially a lot of time. Sometimes it's shorter.
I was born in 1928, and here I am still kicking.
And unfortunately, you can fall as easily as tomorrow.
You're not wrong. As a matter of fact, when I was in Vienna, well, they dropped a building on me.
That sounds unpleasant.
Yes. I was in torpor for about 2 decades. If it helps, Back to the Future lied to me.
A lot of things overshot what was going to happen in the time they thought they would. And he'll look over to Lenny and Ben. But for the most part, at least I could say with some confidence with the Ordo, the likelihood of us attacking you is low. At least the ones that are against the use of the violent.
Fair enough.
Fascinating. Very fascinating.
And I'm also curious, as he looks over, focuses more on Ben, there have been new kindred coming all over to London. I assume the frenzy that we're going through is getting people's attention, but I would think it would push them away. What brought you here?
Well, a while back, I set up a safe house. Oh, just more or less had some property here. Came back to check on it. Happened to be, I generally do my best business when I'm gathering information. And, well, there's a lot going on here.
Lots of information for you to gather, Benny.
Yep. And it just generally turns up that, in times like these, there's a lot that needs to be uncovered. And, I have a skill set.
That you do.
It does not involve anything. Does not involve killing people. I'm not good at that.
Well, you took care of that one guy on the roof.
It's a lucky shot. Like I had
Marcus Joe. Sorry.
No, continue.
Yeah, Marcus just smiles at that statement.
Still. I happened to pop up in town at the most interesting time. So it's been interesting.
Merely a coincidence, then, I see.
Yeah.
How very interesting. How very interesting indeed. But you were successful in your rescue attempt. Yeah?
Yes, mostly.
Yeah.
Most.
We were successful. She's not being held by the Invictus anymore.
But she's being held by somebody else.
I don't know if being held is the right word. She's being... Her sire's looking after her.
But you don't.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but her sire is the former keeper, is she not?
I'm still learning who all the current officers are, let alone former ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't know either.
This is Alicat's sire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Julia raised an
Not-
eyebrow to that. Like, she was captured.
Yes.
Oh yes, that was the thing to do with the video that I was shown. Yeah, yes, that was that, wasn't it? The Carthians did a reprisal on some individuals. On a side note, yes, as a matter of fact, that could be very interesting. They used a very interesting phrase in that video, my dear Miss Lenny. I would be very grateful if we could work together on a matter, and you might be able to be my voice in the Carthian. You seem like a very social butterfly kind of a girl. Would you be willing to lobby something before your friends for me?
Depends on what it is that I'm lobbying.
Oh, wonderful. In that video that I was shown, they had a gentleman who was tied to a chair. I don't know if he's still alive. I'd be very, very grateful if he was. Who said he was a member of a specific organization that named themselves as Belial's Brood. I would be very interested in examining him. And I'd pay handsomely.
Wait, there's Biles Brood here?
Correct.
Who are they? Pardon my ignorance, but haven't been that much around the block. Let's just put it that way.
They are, well, from my perspective, an interest in a point of experimentation. As for what they actually are, well, that's an interesting topic.
They're bad news, that's what they are.
Specifically, what are they?
There's some debate if they're actually a clan, a covenant. You don't really know. They're vampires like us, but not like us. They've all but given up their humanity.
When Nikolai says that, his eyes kind of turn over to Irons in a knowing look, remembering the fight they had outside the theater with those one kindred.
I'm spending a blood point and rolling some dice.
That's
Do
okay. Marcus will just give a very solemn nod towards Goodman. That would explain a few things.
But if
All right. Okay. Hey, Julian, because I can ask you 3 questions. Hi.
Hello.
What do you know about the situation you do not want to verbally speak of?
Actually, for this particular situation, he was honest about that. It was, well, I guess if we say he doesn't present that he fought one of those. If Nikolai's
Okay.
statement.
What happened to the one you fought? Or where did you put the one you fought?
The crone have it. The crone have one of the bodies. The crone has the body and the living specimen.
Fascinating. And the last question is going to be, when you fought them, did they exhibit any odd or interesting abilities that you would not consider to be normal with kindred?
Oh, they couldn't feel pain. That was the biggest one.
Neat. You see how it will kind of lead in and go, I see. He has all this. He's like the worst McKed. He's got the subtlety of a brick.
I was curious, because it's not that big of a secret usually that I hide. But my indomitable merit shouldn't have. I don't know if it getting away or not. That doesn't really matter.
No, this is not rolled against.
No, it's
There's
in
no
general, it's just
roll against.
mental effects. So
Yeah, it's Indomitable will reduce if it either gives you a +2 bonus or a
-2.
or -2, but that's only if it's already subtracting something from it. This
Okay.
is not Specs is not resisted like that.
It's not at these levels. But yes, that's what he knows. At least that's what it's. That is the beast. That is what your beast is realizing from his beast. Yeah. Great. It can't just be easy. We can't just have tyrants. We have to have, and he uses a particular word. We have to have a group that may have Drugar in them as well.
But yes, Miss Lenny, if you would be able to get me access to the body, I would be eternally grateful.
I will see what I can do.
Wonderful. Wonderful. The chance to examine one would be invaluable.
Is there something specific you're looking for in your examination?
I want to see what makes them tick.
Fair enough.
After all, it's only through experimentation that we come to understand our condition, wouldn't you agree?
I would agree so far as it goes. Experimentation is not my particular focus.
As I said, ever the social butterfly.
Precisely.
Delightful, delightful, delightful. Well, this is turning into such a wonderful evening. Pleasant company, etc.
And Julian begins kind of scratching at his head and looks over to Lenny and says, so I guess the best way to put it right now is Alley Cat is in no immediate danger.
Correct. She's not.
Okay. How about Miss Brother? And he looks between the two. It is Miss Brothers, okay.
Lanny?
Yep.
You were just asked a question.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Let me turn my volume up. What was the question?
Oh, Julian asked if Miss Brothers is okay.
That one I'm less sure of, but to my knowledge, no one's in any danger.
Or at least, in a more danger than anybody can be during a war.
True enough.
Quite right.
War. I mean, realistically, it all depends on how much you feel you're able to handle yourself. It is as it is, I suppose.
That it is.
Speaking of war and all this going on, Lenny, I have a proposition for some of the um, of your covenant mates. If
Do
you
tell.
by what?
Do tell.
It's sensitive matter, and but if you could let um if you could let Chloe, next time you see her, let her know that I'm looking for her. I might have something that might interest her and the higher ups.
Seems like an easy enough request.
Who was asking that question real quick?
Nikolai was.
Okay, cool. Cool. Oh, that's not the right one.
By the way, this is all said just for those who are aware in a thick Russian accent. I'm just too tired right now to actually do the
Who are
accent.
we kidding? Yeah.
That's super reasonable.
I think myself and Ben are both doing the same thing.
So I rolled 3 successes for my Auspex too.
Actually, you rolled 2. You rolled 2. I rolled 3.
No. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, no, because yours came up at the same time. All right. Well, 2's fine. So do you want to go first, or do you want? To go
Yeah,
first?
sure. I'll take it first. Hey, Nikolai, how's it going?
Hi.
What's the task?
You get the image of you get the image of a vault filled with weaponry of all sorts. As the image zooms out, one by one layers of security of armed men and women appear as giant doors slam shut.
Cool. Second question, and this one's going to get a spicy answer, I sense. Who gave you this task?
You see the image of a woman with a throne behind her.
Neat. And last question, how important is this task to you?
You see a pillar rising into the sky.
Cool. That is awesome. Thank you.
So for my 2 questions, what's your relation to Chloe?
Jeez, how do I put this? You see a green string tying us together. A faded green string, I should say. Not actually even faded, more almost ethereal, like it's not actually solid, but it's getting there.
Okay, that's interesting. And then, what information do you have for Chloe?
You see a image of dead bodies, people mutilated by gunshots and by violence, as the mutilations and violence seems to suck away into guns, into the origin, like the bullets fly out of the body as the body heals into the gun, and then the guns pile up.
right, cool.
Yeah.
By the way, just an important point of clarification because it's very likely that Alexander will meet her. When he does meet the seneschal, is it fair to say that she is the woman standing in front of the throne?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Alexander kind of smiles rather politely from where he's sitting. Just takes another sip of his wine. Such interesting things you learn when you're with such charming people.
So I'm assuming that you guys have been in the sit longer. How do
I
you?
arrived last Tuesday.
Well, I meant. Well, I mean, no, that's fair.
The
Um,
other gentleman, though.
The other gentleman.
Ah,
Yeah. I guess, how do you feel about the current climate in the city? If you don't mind me being so upfront.
I personally feel that we're focused on the wrong things right now.
What do you
Well,
think we should be focusing on?
just looks pointedly at Hartwell.
hello.
What he's focused on.
Reasonable.
He's not wrong.
This war was a long time coming, and I understand why it's happening, but I feel like doing so now is just going to create more opening for them.
It's entirely fair. Makes sense.
Hartwell shrugs as he finishes his glass of wine, and he'll say, in all honesty, our kind very rarely focus on what they should be focusing on.
That's an understatement, good sir.
That sounds about right.
Now there is a truthful statement if I ever heard one.
I tend to be good at those.
Fair.
It's a simple truth. Trust me, when it is you spend your life fighting the shadow, well, you tend to see what truly matters.
Right. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation and all, but I just noticed the time. Places to be, people to see.
It's been a pleasure to see you, Master Nikolai. You should not be a stranger. And as I said, if you ever want to borrow a book, you only have to ask.
I may just well take you up on that offer. And he will get up and shake your hand one more time, then offer his hand to everybody else to shake, and then say, "Good day, comrades," as he heads to the door.
Rather interesting, gentlemen.
And bye, guys.
See
Bye.
you.
Bye. Yes, that he is.
There seem to be a lot of interesting people here.
I've never heard of a boring kindred.
Well, if they were boring, you would never hear of them.
Precisely.
That's sometimes the point.
Quite often, so yeah, but that is how it is, gentlemen and ladies. C'est la vie.
But yes, the question was put in the room how some of us feel about what is going on. I understand that change needs purpose, and I can see the purpose behind the change being pushed for. However, maybe due to my background, maybe due to my life experiences, I'm sharing Nikolai's views that somebody has to keep an eye out for external threats. Somebody has to keep an eye out on other bad actors. One of the reasons why I decided to move myself a bit further away from the frontline conflicts, because I see an enemy that threatens all of us, regardless of covenant, that threaten, for the lack of a better word, my people, or as close as we kindred might ever come to consider ourselves as one people. So I try in my own way to safeguard, see, and pass on knowledge, as seems reasonable.
That it does.
Sadly, I've had interactions with them, all of them of a rather unpleasant and conflictuous nature. And yes, they do come closest to what I would have considered in the past folkloric devils, deal makers. It makes sense that if they wish to be the orchestrators, or at least kick off conflict, they will want that. In conflict, people get, well, become desperate, and desperate men and women often make poor choices. That's all I have to say on the matter.
Desperation leads to the heights of creativity sometimes.
It is true that a crisis can be turned into an opportunity, but when it comes to those entities, don't make a deal with the devil. He'll always win.
Oh, yes. That part seems fairly straightforward now that I've been informed of what they are.
I wish I'd been informed what they were before I mentioned the name that I did, but alas, the past is in the past, and I have to work with the present.
If you are confronted by them, I tend to find fireworks.
Well, fire seems to work on everything.
Yes,
On a lot of things.
as long as you don't find yourself with other kindred who might be more averse to it than others. And he gives Sir Hartwell a very knowing smile.
Hartwell, for his part, puts down his wine decanter, or puts down his wine glass, and he will say, "Well, it has been such a lovely evening's conversation."
I'm curious, since we may not get the chance to ask this, or speak in a, let's say, quickly manner. And he looks over to Hartwell and says, I assume you are at least inspired, correct?
He kind of contemplates for a few moments before he will say, which is inspired again. Don't want to
Inspired
look through
means
the entire list of
yeah.
bullshit.
Inspired means you have at least 3 dots in the coil. Or
He
3
will
dots.
say, because inspired is not what I have on mine as a
Oh,
list
sorry.
of quills.
No, that's scholar. That's my bad. Scholar is.
He will say, adept.
He nods his head to that. Sad. He looks over to Iron and says, he's getting. Listen, you're about as knowledgeable as Mr. Irons.
Out of character, meaning that Hartwell has a 4th level in at least one coil.
It's total dots. It's so. But there is other words for saying that you have more than one, and even levels of that more than one.
He will say, why is it you ask, Mr. Goodman?
Listen, because just curious. And it's always been a gauge amongst our people to figure out how much they care for the arts. And he nods in a very respectful manner. It's like, and I want to give credit where credit is due.
He bows his head somewhat graciously before he'll say, indeed, quite so. Well, it has been a pleasure to meet you, Miss Lenny and Master Ben. He will stand up and he will offer his hand again.
She extends out her hand once more.
Delighted to meet you, my dear. Do give both my kindest regards and my requests to your superiors.
I will see what I can do for you, sir.
I am so grateful.
Hey, Evan.
Yes.
I'm going to Auspex to you.
Yay!
Oh, God, 4 successes. I had one question. Oh, Jesus. What bloodline are you?
You
You
see
mentioned
a murky black shadow, almost as dark as darkness, and you hear chanting in a language you don't speak. Yatuwe, Yatuwe, Yatuwe!
Oh, that's
I got to quote the
important.
mummy for once. That was pretty great.
What brought you to London?
Ooh. I'm just going to give you straight answers because I can't be bothered to come up with metaphysical imagery. He came here because he was told to hunt. Oh, you probably get a vision of the Strix from him. Have fun with that mental image. It's basically like a grotesque, shadowy owl-like shape, and you see him killing it.
Okay. Why are you meeting the Seneschal?
I beg your pardon?
Why are you meeting the Seneschal?
He's never said he was meeting the Seneschal.
You said he was meeting the Seneschal?
No. I said, in case I ever meet the Seneschal, is it the same person?
Oh, okay, never
Feel free
mind.
to ask another question.
Oh, that was actually the reason why I did this, because I misunderstood. Fuck.
Well, you have 2 more questions anyway, so have fun.
Yeah, let me figure this out. What is your interest with the man that you want to get a hold of through the Carthians?
Hey Matt, you ever seen a vivisection?
Ah, I understand now. Okay.
And one last question.
Oh man. Is there any particular leaning he has for either Carthian or Invictus?
Ooh, that's actually a really interesting one. Entirely no. You see gold coins being flicked down onto a table. From your summation, he will work for either side for pay.
Okay, gotcha.
He has no philosophical dog in the sheep and pony race.
Oh, hell, the
Oh, that's
dragon.
fair.
All hail the dragon.
I mean, I'm a dragon without my gold hoard to laze on. What kind of dragon am I?
Correct.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
Fair
even my
enough.
guy has got a bit of pirate treasure.
That answers my questions.
Wunderbar. But yeah, so with that, I think we're good to end our scene, are we?
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another scene in Vampire the Requiem. All right, Requiem. Well, London. Meh.